My beloved child. Do not scroll past this moment, because what your soulmate recently tried to discover about you was not what they expected to hear. They went looking for one simple answer. They wanted clarity about your money, your future, and the life you might someday build together. But according to this fictional spiritual story, the conversation took a turn that left them completely speechless. Don't skip. Because the most surprising part was not a number. It was not about how much money you have today. It was not about what sits in your account, what you own, or what you can show the world. The shocking part was what the psychic suggested about the person you are becoming. And when your soulmate heard it, their entire understanding of you began to change. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate had been thinking about this for longer than you realize. There were questions they were almost embarrassed to admit. Not because they cared only about money. Not because they were measuring your worth by possessions. Their question came from somewhere much deeper. They were thinking about the future. They were imagining what life beside you might actually look like. And somewhere inside those thoughts was a quiet question. Will we be okay? That question followed them. It appeared when they thought about commitment. It appeared when they imagined a home, responsibilities, plans, and all those ordinary things that suddenly become important when feelings stop being casual. Your soulmate knew there was something unusual about you. You could be quiet about your plans. You didn't always announce your next move. You could carry enormous ambitions behind an ordinary expression. And sometimes that mystery made them curious. They had watched you experience moments when things did not move as quickly as you wanted. They had noticed times when you seemed to be working harder than anyone understood. They had seen you become silent when conversations turned toward success, money, or the future. But what they couldn't understand was why you never seemed completely defeated. Even after disappointment, something remained in you. A spark. A stubborn little certainty. A feeling that your current circumstances were not the final chapter. And that is exactly why they asked. But don't skip, because their original question is not the important part. What happened after the question is where everything changed. Picture the moment. Your soulmate sits across from this psychic, trying to appear relaxed. They begin carefully. I want to ask about someone. The psychic listens. Your soulmate hesitates. Then they finally say it. I want to know about their financial future. There. The question is out. Your soulmate expected an ordinary response. Maybe something vague about career changes. Perhaps something about patience, saving, or opportunity. Instead, in this fictional reading, the psychic becomes unusually quiet. Your soulmate notices immediately. What is it? No immediate answer. And that silence makes their heart beat faster. Stay till the end. Because what follows is what your soulmate has been replaying in their mind ever since. The psychic finally looks at them and says something they never expected. You're asking about money, but money isn't the strongest thing surrounding this person. Your soulmate becomes confused. Then what is? Another pause. Transformation. That single word changes the atmosphere. Transformation. Your soulmate expected to hear rich or poor, successful or struggling, easy road or difficult road. Instead, they heard transformation. And suddenly the reading was no longer about what you have. It was about what you are building. The psychic described someone who had learned things through seasons of limitation. Someone whose delays had quietly created discipline. Someone who had been forced to think differently because easy answers did not always arrive. Your soulmate immediately thought of you. They remembered the times you stayed calm while privately carrying pressure. They remembered how often people underestimated you because they could only judge what was visible. They remembered conversations where you hinted at plans but refused to explain everything. And then something clicked. Maybe your silence had never meant you had no direction. Maybe you were protecting a vision that wasn't ready to be seen. Don't skip. Because that was only the first revelation. Your soulmate leaned forward. So what happens? The psychic smiled. And instead of giving them some magical guaranteed prediction, the psychic offered an interpretation that disturbed them in a completely different way. This person may not become successful in the way people around them expect. Your soulmate's face changed. For a second, they thought this sounded negative. Then came the rest. They may create their own way. Your soulmate froze. Because they knew exactly what that meant. You have never completely fit into somebody else's definition of success. Even when you tried. There has always been something inside you that wanted more freedom, more meaning, more control over your direction. Maybe you've imagined creating something. Building something. Changing careers. Learning something new. Turning a skill into an opportunity. Or simply reaching a place where money no longer controls every decision you make. Your soulmate had noticed pieces of this. But they had never put those pieces together. Until now. Something huge is waiting for you. Because your soulmate's next question revealed what they were actually afraid of. They didn't ask, how much will they make? They asked, will they change when things get better? Think about that. Their biggest fear wasn't your lack of money. Their biggest fear was losing you to success. That question exposed everything. They were imagining you becoming more confident. More independent. More recognized. More capable. More financially secure. And somewhere beneath their happiness for you was a private fear. What if you eventually realize you don't need them? That was the truth hiding underneath the reading. Your soulmate wasn't simply curious about your financial future. They were questioning their place in it. Don't skip now. Because the answer they received made them emotional. The psychic explained that money doesn't automatically change a person's deepest nature. It often magnifies patterns that already exist. Someone generous may become more able to give. Someone disciplined may gain more choices. Someone thoughtful may become more protective of the people they love. And your soulmate began remembering something. You had already shown who you were during moments when you had less. That mattered. They remembered little things you probably forgot. A time you helped someone when there was nothing in it for you. A moment you chose loyalty over convenience. A conversation where you spoke about wanting enough not merely for yourself, but so that the people you cared about could breathe easier. Those memories suddenly became evidence. And your soulmate's fears started turning into something else. Respect. But stay till the end. Because the biggest shock hadn't arrived yet. Your soulmate asked one final financial question. If this person succeeds, where does their biggest opportunity come from? The psychic didn't immediately answer. Instead, they asked your soulmate something strange. What does this person do that everyone around them considers ordinary? Your soulmate thought. Maybe your creativity. Maybe your ability to communicate. Maybe the way you understand people. Maybe your persistence. Maybe your ability to notice opportunities other people ignore. Maybe something you currently treat as just a hobby. Your soulmate mentioned something about you. And the psychic's expression changed. That. Your soulmate blinked. What? That may be more important than you realize. Suddenly, the entire conversation turned upside down. Because your soulmate had gone there expecting to discover whether you would have money. Instead, they walked away wondering whether you were already carrying the seed of your future without recognizing its value. Stay with this story. Something huge is waiting for you. There may be something you have become so accustomed to doing that you no longer recognize how valuable it could become. A skill. A talent. A perspective. A creative ability. A way of solving problems. Something you learned because life required you to learn it. Something other people notice in you that you dismiss because it feels natural. And this fictional reading forced your soulmate to look at you differently. Suddenly, the person they loved wasn't simply someone waiting for an opportunity. You were someone capable of creating one. That thought stayed with them. They left the conversation carrying more questions than answers. But one question became louder than everything else. Have I underestimated them? That question hurt. Because your soulmate remembered moments when they doubted your plans. Perhaps they never said it directly. Perhaps they smiled and supported you outwardly while privately wondering whether your dream was realistic. Maybe they compared your timeline with other people's timelines. Maybe they looked at what you had today and accidentally treated it like evidence of where you would always remain. Now they felt guilty. Because the reading had reminded them of something simple. A person's current chapter cannot reveal the ending of their story. Don't skip. This is where the emotional part begins. That evening, your soulmate couldn't stop thinking about you. They imagined you sitting alone somewhere, planning. Thinking. Trying again. Maybe feeling unseen. Maybe wondering whether anyone truly believed in what you were trying to become. And suddenly your soulmate wanted to tell you something. I should have believed in you louder. Those words kept forming inside them. Not because some psychic magically guaranteed your future. But because the conversation forced them to remember everything they had already witnessed. Your resilience. Your ideas. Your patience. Your ability to restart. Your refusal to remain emotionally defeated forever. Your strange habit of finding hope even after plans changed. That was the real prediction. Not fortune. Character. Because character is what your soulmate had overlooked while worrying about numbers. Stay till the end. There is another layer. Your soulmate began thinking about money differently too. They realized they had been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, will this person become wealthy? They started asking, what could we build together if we both became wiser? That difference matters. Suddenly, your soulmate wasn't imagining themselves standing on the sidelines watching your future happen. They were imagining partnership, planning, growth. Two people learning together. Two people becoming more disciplined together. Two people celebrating progress without competing. Two people creating stability without allowing money to become more important than love, peace, or character. And that vision affected them deeply. Because for the first time, they weren't simply thinking about being with you. They were thinking about building with you. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate also realized something uncomfortable about themselves. Their curiosity about your finances had partly come from fear. They wanted certainty. They wanted somebody to promise them that everything would work out. But life rarely offers guarantees like that. Relationships don't come with financial forecasts. Dreams don't arrive with exact timelines. Success doesn't send an invitation announcing the date it will appear. Real futures are built through decisions. And your soulmate finally understood that. The psychic could offer an interpretation. But you would still have to make choices. You would still have to work. You would still have to learn. You would still have to recognize opportunities. You would still have to protect your peace from people who laugh at beginnings simply because they cannot imagine endings. And your soulmate suddenly wanted to become someone who encouraged that growth rather than questioned it. Don't skip. Because there is something they haven't told you yet. After leaving, your soulmate almost contacted you. They picked up their phone. Your name was right there. Their thumb hovered over the screen. They wanted to say, "I learned something about you today." But they stopped. How could they explain it? How could they admit they had been asking questions about your money? Would you misunderstand? Would you think they cared about material things? Would you wonder why they hadn't simply asked you? So they put the phone down. Then picked it up again. And put it down again. Because the truth they discovered was no longer about money. It was about how deeply they had started imagining a future with you. That frightened them more than the reading itself. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because when someone begins wondering whether your future is stable enough to build beside, their feelings may have moved far beyond casual attraction. They are thinking long-term. They are imagining consequences. They are wondering what happens after the exciting beginning. What happens when ordinary life arrives? Bills. Responsibilities. Goals. Choices. Changes. They were asking whether your lives could truly fit together. And strangely, the reading made them more hopeful. Not because it promised perfection, but because it reminded them that your greatest financial strength may not be money at all. It may be adaptability. The ability to change direction without losing yourself. The ability to learn when something doesn't work. The ability to continue when progress is slow. The ability to turn disappointment into information instead of identity. Those qualities don't look glamorous. But over time, they can become incredibly valuable. Your soulmate finally saw that. And they whispered something quietly to themselves. They're going to surprise people. Don't skip now. Because the person they were talking about wasn't some imaginary perfect version of you. They meant the version who has already survived discouragement. The version who kept going when nobody applauded. The version who learned lessons privately. The version who has ideas you haven't fully acted on yet. The version who occasionally wonders whether you're behind. The version who looks at someone else's success and quietly asks, "When will it be my turn?" Listen carefully. This story is not promising that money will suddenly appear. It is pointing towards something more useful. Your future can change when your habits change. Your circumstances can shift when your decisions shift. Your financial story does not have to remain identical to its previous chapters. And your soulmate is beginning to understand that the person standing in front of them today may be only the beginning. Something huge is waiting for you. The psychic gave your soulmate one final thought before the conversation ended. Don't become so focused on what this person may have tomorrow that you forget who they are today. That sentence followed your soulmate home. Because they realized they had been imagining future versions of you so intensely that they almost forgot the person they already loved. Your laugh. Your kindness. Your strange little habits. Your determination. The way you become quiet when you're thinking deeply. The way you care more than you admit. The way you can look completely calm while 1,000 thoughts move behind your eyes. Money suddenly felt small compared with all of that. And perhaps that was the most shocking discovery. Your soulmate went searching for information about your finances. They came back thinking about your heart. Don't skip. Because now comes the confession they haven't made. They want to support something you're trying to build. They may not know exactly what it is yet. They may not even know whether you have told anyone. But they sense there is something. A plan you've been protecting. A dream you've been postponing. A decision you've been afraid to make. A skill you haven't taken seriously enough. And instead of questioning it, they want to ask. What do you need from me? Not necessarily money. Maybe encouragement. Maybe patience. Maybe someone who doesn't laugh while the idea is still small. Maybe someone who reminds you why you started when progress feels invisible. That is the person your soulmate is considering becoming. And this is why the reading affected them so much. It wasn't predicting your bank account. It was confronting their ability to stand beside someone who is still becoming. Stay till the end. We're approaching the part that changes the meaning of everything. Your soulmate asked about your money because they thought your financial future would tell them whether they should feel secure with you. Instead, they discovered that security is not simply something one person brings to another. It is something two mature people learn to create. Through communication. Through discipline. Through honesty. Through planning. Through patience. Through knowing when to dream and when to calculate. Through understanding that love cannot replace responsibility, but responsibility without love can become empty. And now they are thinking about you differently. Not as someone who needs to arrive perfectly prepared. But as someone they may be willing to grow beside. Something huge is waiting for you. There is one more secret. Your soulmate hasn't forgotten the psychic's question. What does this person do naturally? They keep thinking about it. They are watching you differently now. When you speak passionately about something, they notice. When you solve a problem quickly, they notice. When you create something, they notice. When somebody asks you for advice, they notice. When your energy changes around a certain subject, they notice. Because they are trying to identify the thing they may have overlooked. And perhaps you should ask yourself the same question. What comes naturally to you that could become more valuable if you treated it seriously? Don't skip this thought. Your next chapter may not begin with something arriving from outside you. It may begin when you finally recognize something already inside you. Not magic. Not a guarantee. Potential. And potential becomes powerful only when it is developed. Your soulmate understands that now. They know there may be setbacks. There may be wrong turns. There may be plans that fail before better ones appear. But strangely, they are less afraid than before. Because they no longer need your future to look perfect. They need to know you won't stop growing. And from everything they have seen, you haven't. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate's final realization may be the one that surprises you most. They don't want your money. They want to know whether there is room for them in the life you're building. That is the question underneath everything. When your circumstances improve. When your confidence rises. When doors begin opening. When the things you've been quietly working toward finally start taking shape. Will you still look at them the same way? Will you remember who believed in you? Will there still be a place beside you? That is what they are afraid to ask. And perhaps soon, they won't be able to keep that question inside anymore. Because the phone they picked up and put down may eventually stay in their hand. The message they deleted may eventually be rewritten. The conversation they have been avoiding may eventually happen. And when it does, don't be surprised if it begins with something completely ordinary. Can we talk? But underneath those 3 words may be everything. Fear. Hope. Regret. Love. A future they have been secretly imagining. And one confession they never expected themselves to make. I don't care where you're starting. I want to know where we're going. Don't skip this final moment. Because this entire story began with money. But it was never truly about money. It was about worth. It was about potential. It was about whether somebody can recognize your future without demanding that you already possess everything today. It was about your soulmate discovering that your most valuable quality cannot be measured by a number. You keep becoming. You keep learning. You keep rebuilding. You keep imagining possibilities beyond what currently exists. And now someone who loves you may finally be seeing that clearly. Something huge is waiting for you. Not because a psychic can guarantee your destiny. Not because anyone can promise exactly what tomorrow will bring. But because sometimes one unexpected conversation forces a person to confront feelings they have been hiding from themselves. Your soulmate went looking for certainty about your money. They discovered uncertainty about their own heart. They realized they were afraid of losing you. They realized they were imagining a future beside you. They realized they had underestimated your potential. And most importantly, they realized that if they wait until everything in your life is perfect before believing in you, they may miss the most meaningful part of your journey. The becoming. So stay alert to the conversations that feel different. Notice when someone suddenly asks more serious questions about your plans. Notice when they become unusually interested in your dreams. Notice when someone who once seemed uncertain begins encouraging you. Because sometimes people reveal their deepest feelings indirectly before they finally find the courage to say them plainly. And your soulmate may be closer to that moment than you think. Stay till the end, because here is the final truth. The shocking discovery was never that you were destined for a particular amount of money. It was that your soulmate finally stopped measuring your future by your present. They saw possibility where they once saw uncertainty. They saw character where they once saw numbers. They saw partnership where they once saw questions. And somewhere tonight, in this fictional story, they are thinking about one sentence they desperately want to tell you. I should never have doubted what you could become. But there is another sentence behind it. A sentence they haven't found the courage to say yet. And when they finally do, it won't be about money. It won't be about predictions. It won't even be about the psychic. It will be about you. About them. About the future. And about whether the two of you are finally ready to stop wondering what could happen. And start discovering what you can build together.